Thank you for joining us, everyone, for another episode of Creatives Chat, episode 31, part 2, The After Show, featuring Paper Chase. Join us as we chat about who knows what. We shall begin our show now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by We Are Historically Conscious Human Apparel and
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
let's say hello to Chase again.
I guess what's some of the stuff that you got cooking for when all this lockdown stuff goes away?
Well, I have a song that's called Lockdown that I wrote at the very beginning of lockdown. Hype Hop, there was a bunch of stuff that we were working on, and then I was talking to Michael, aka Mic Drop, about it more, and he just said that he wasn't really feeling it anymore, that his creative energy wasn't like aligned with it or anything. I'm not really sure. It wasn't anything bad. It was just that he didn't feel like it was calling to him anymore, which I understand. So we have a bunch of hype hop songs that are unreleased. Like we have the song called Money is God that we made a music video for. That's basically, and people, when I show people that, they're like, that's not right, man. Like you can't say money is God. I'm like, but it is. Like in the society that we live in, that's how people treat money. People worship money, right? So that's what that song is about, basically.
Such an artistic take to it.
Yeah.
It just goes over their head like, that's the point, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, right. It offends you because, yeah, it should offend you because why do we value money more than we value each other? You know what I mean? And so that's kind of that. I mean, obviously, you know, that's the overarching theme, and there's lots of bars about money in there and stuff. But
how dare you make people think?
I know, right? Like, yeah, damn. I gotta be like, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. So I have that. I had the song called Lockdown that I made that our boy Lil Known Fact is about to lay a verse on. I think you already might have. I'm working on a couple albums, 2 projects basically. So
dope.
One is going to be my first solo project that I release by myself. I don't know if it's going to come out first or second of the 2. And that one's going to be basically the next chapter of me and my development as an artist. Maybe have some chilling tales from the Rona. I want to call it like the Notebook or the next page or the next chapter or something. It's gotta have a pun, some kind of pun. But then one that I'm really excited about that I feel like has a lot more potential as far as mainstream success and marketability. It's going to be called Literally Anyone Can Do This. And it's going to be basically probably 6 to 10 songs that are different archetypes of modern day rap songs. So I have a sad boy song. Marshall and Gertie have heard it and they were like, what the hell? This is you? I'm like, yeah. So like have like a sad boy song, a club banger, like a Drake type song, I don't know, and then like a song about drugs. So, you know what I mean? Like those songs that fit different structures of other songs that you would hear like on mainstream hip hop stations or whatever, but basically making fun of them or like not even like a Weird Al type of making fun of them, but like making it so basic of that format that it can't fail, essentially. Like it's gonna be the Toyota Corolla of an album.
I see. That's the Toyota Corolla of an album. Long lasting, always trusting. And it's so funny though, because I think that's something right there that just goes to your playful spirit and mentality of just like how you approach life. And it's really just having fun with it and just showing. But it's also incredibly challenging too for people to make something like that not come across cheesy and actually have it be something that's like, oh wow, this is actually really. I would listen to this again, and to know that deep down that you're just like essentially pointing a jab at the actual industry itself.
Yeah. So it's I have to find that happy middle ground of it can't be cheesy, because then it's gonna not do well because it's cheesy. I mean, G-Eazy's pretty cheesy though, and he does really well. So maybe have a G-Eazy song on there, and I don't know, call it P cheesy or something. And then
Vegan
you
cheese.
can't, yeah, you can't look like you're trying too hard as well, because that's also bad. Because if you look like you're trying too hard, then it's fake. So you got to find that happy middle ground where it's still a good song, still sounds real, and it still is enough of a joke, or at least enough asserted as a joke, that you can have the success with it. So like, I don't know, you got Young Gravy. That guy makes bangers, but they're a joke. So like, you know, or Riff Raff or
Right.
Lil Dicky, any of those type of guys. I mean, that's very, very similar to what I'd like to do, because then you can combine all the elements, and you don't have an image to follow in that sense. Because I'm not going to be like, yeah, I'm the hardest motherfucker on the face of the earth. That's me. Don't fuck with me. That's not me. That's not me at all. That's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to shoot anybody.
Well,
So,
I think that's a question that really leads me right into it in terms of just like hip hop culture and how the kind of mainstream aspect has really changed how people approach the art and the craft.
right.
Is, you know, it's like what is your kind of current theory on hip hop, and like how can it really transform itself into something that, you know, builds more of that artistic understanding to it and builds more community, and just, I don't want to say like everyone that's in hip hop right now is ass, but
Right.
how can hip hop be better and kind of bring back that old school vibe of what it used to be? You know, I guess you'd say almost like hip hop with more integrity.
Well, there is no artistic integrity. But what I will say is this:
That's fine.
there is a level of just overall integrity that needs to be brought back. And sound can evolve. That's fine. I have no issue with sound evolving. Like Young Thug, that guy right there, that is one of those real dudes in hip hop right now, and he's a revolutionary as far as the sound goes. Like, as far as the modern sound goes, Young Thug is one of the pioneers and will forever live on into the future generations. But to get back to the roots, I feel like what's happened is tiny brain people have listened to what hip hop has said lyrically, like with gangster rap and whatnot, and they're like, oh, this is like actually how I should act. I should get a gun and go shoot some people and sell drugs and everything. Now, granted, this is the fault of the United States government in a big sense, and putting young African Americans and people of color into these communities where they have to do this to survive. And then hip hop is the only way out. I believe the saying is, what, rapper go to the league. I think that's a 2 Chainz album name. Like, that's one of the names of his albums, rapper go to the league. And that's so true. Like, you have these, I mean, I guess underprivileged communities where there's less money, there's less access to education. They don't have the resources that, say, a wealthy neighborhood does. And so what happens is they get into selling drugs, they get into gangbanging, they get into, you know, stealing shit, like all this stuff. And then a few of them do get into making hip hop music. And then what happens from there? People like to tell stories about what they do. So then they tell stories about what they were doing before hip hop. And that leads to them making rap songs about doing drugs, selling drugs, fucking hoes, popping gats, stealing cars, whatever. And then you take that and you give it to the mainstream, that person blows up, and then all the people, you know, say in Chicago or Detroit or somewhere that's, you know, kind of overrun with overwhelming amounts of violence and whatnot. And then that just leads to more issues, because they're like, oh, well, this person's from my hometown and this is what they're saying, so I might as well just do.
That vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, exactly. So in order to get back to it, I feel like, I mean, one, we got to overthrow the government. I'm just going to say that. We do that, get the money allocated properly, perfect. Uh-oh, FBI's at my door. Here they are. They're coming in. But I feel like if more people like preach good things, like that's what I love about Marshall and the MLB, is that they're spreading something genuine that can build bridges and not burn bridges, right? Where you're trying to have a positive, good outlook on the world. You want to show respect for people, and you're trying to make a better person for yourself. And I feel like a lot of people think that that's cheesy, but you know what is pretty cheesy is like, I fuck your bitch, buddy. I fuck your bitch. Oh, like that's
Well, and see that right there though, that concept of like, in terms of the industries and what sells, and how
yeah,
we've seen like people that have really, I don't want to say they have no artistic skill because clearly they did something to get there, but people that really don't have, real deep connections with like the streets or even that upbringing. And, one of the things that I've seen that's really concerning and just like the mentorship program that I've done is that the rap that a lot of the younger kids are listening to, they're all talking about like popping Xanax and doing all these
oh yeah,
crazy pills. And I just don't get like, how did hip hop get into that shift of just like, okay, so it went from like gangster rap, I remember that in the 90s, to kind of like how things kind of evolved, like trappish style music and all that. But like, when did it go straight up like, yo, let's OD, let's be straight up on codeine all the time and go beyond that and just start shooting up pills? Like, I don't get the switch, and
yeah,
I personally don't get the appeal. Like, I just don't get how rap turned into that point where it's like, I remember some of like all the old school hip hop used to be you had to be a good lyricist to be a hip hop artist.
right,
You
right,
actually had to be able to make, and if you weren't like a good lyricist, you actually had to be able to talk about super deep things, or just,
right.
you had to get people thinking with your music and your rapping ability. But now it just seems to be that's just like, I could just put in a hook and say the same hook for 80% of the song and then do some brr, 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 like sounds every now and then maybe a verse or two, and then that's like a platinum album.
I
Like,
mean,
I just don't get it.
like do it and try it and see what happens. But I think that honestly, the problem is it comes down to what the new generation is. And I mean, you're a little older than I am. You're still a millennial, and I'm low millennial, high Gen Z. I'm right on that gap right there. So, and like both my siblings are Gen Z technically, so I can swing both ways. Um, but what I think is really happening is with the current way that the world is, with how easy it is to get information, how quickly kids are growing up, like with technology and
Mm.
everything, kids are just growing up fast. Like I'll be playing Xbox at midnight and then shoot someone, and then I hear their mic and it's a fucking 8-year-old playing fucking Call of Duty. And like, okay, cool. Well, like, great. You're out here swearing and you're past your bedtime and all this. So it starts early, but then next thing you know, um, I feel like a lot of kids with the cell phone, the era and the digital era, people get bored quickly, like with
True.
attention spans being at an all-time low, or ADHD or depression and all this, because of the dopamine that you get when you're scrolling or when you're getting likes on a post and whatnot. And so
Yeah.
people want to still feel that, and so then they start taking perk 30s, and then they pop a Xan or whatever, and next thing you know, they're ODing and whatnot. So I think
Mm.
it from boredom is where it really all starts, is being bored and just so dissatisfied with everything. And then a lot of people start making that into music, and then people are like, oh, this is okay, freaking so and so is doing this. Oh, Juice World's taking a bunch of pills and I like Juice World, so I'll just do that. And then you take a bunch on the runway and then you freaking die because you ate all your pills really fast. Rest in peace, Juice World. Why did you eat all those pills that fast? You shouldn't have done that. So the it comes down to the youth culture as a whole, I think. And
Mm.
most of the youth are probably good people. I feel like they've
Yeah.
just been misguided by stupid TikToks and like all these shit posts and all these fucking dumb memes that I love. I love me a good deep fried meme, but god damn does it make me lose brain cells. So all this stuff going on, I feel like it's just dumbing down everybody. But it's so the access to information is so easy now. So you have easy access to things that are going to dumb you down, but you're not stupid because you know how to use the technology to your advantage. And so like it's a catch 22. You're getting smarter because
Yeah.
you're rapidly evolving, but you're getting dumber because you're feeding yourself garbage information. And then you
Mm.
start doing stuff because you're bored, because you're like, oh, I want to experiment. Back in my day, experimenting was just, smoking a little bit of weed or something, and then taking some acid after you take your SAT test. But but like now it's like at 12 years old, it's like, bro, you want to take some bars? Like, why is that even a thing that kids are doing? I don't understand.
No, man, I think it's hilarious that you said it that way, because in terms of the children being introduced into things, earlier and earlier, I mean, that's just, I guess you'd say it's almost like the evolutionary inevitability that that's just always going to happen, as things
Right.
improve and things increase. Like I remember the first, like, or technically I remember playing on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis that we had in our home. And then boom,
Yeah.
fast forward, Xbox One, Xbox X Series, all this other stuff like PlayStation
Yeah.
5. Like you see the evolution in just the technology within like our lifespan thus far.
Right.
And it comes to that point where it's, are we really wielding the tools that we have wisely? Or are they controlling us? And I think it's very evident that they're controlling a good majority of the people.
Yeah.
And I guess the real big thing that highlights from this is, it's a factor of boredom. And it becomes that, the cliche saying of idle hands are the devil's playthings. But there's a lot of truth to that, where it's like, if you're not really pushing yourself to aspire to be like a better version of yourself, or to really learn something and grow, I see that it's just as a societal reaction, we're seeing just all of the lesser vibrations and lesser energies and bad habits, all these things just gaining more and more control out of just not being tested, not being
Right.
challenged enough. And I think that's something for the listeners that I really want to ask you on, is just, how do you handle adversity like this? Like, how have you personally utilized your, these flaws and boredoms and, societal pressures, really just to like dance your dance? Because that right there is just you said it so casually, but just like seeing the big picture, being able to take a step back and actually look at yourself in life is a skill that everyone needs to start to practice. So like, what really put you in the position in life to kind of hone those skills, or where did you really start to develop? Like, when did you really have that first recognition of like, okay, I got to take a step back, I got to evaluate some shit?
Well, really, like, I'm gonna shout out Mr. Gary on this one again for philosophy class. Like, that really helped me explore my horizons. Like, there were maybe like
Mm.
4 classes I gave a shit about in high school. Spanish was one of them. I know one of them for sure was philosophy, though. Um, and so what really made me think about stuff was just like learning about how to think critically about stuff. And then, the self is at the center of everything, and what you perceive is what is real. And so if you don't look at why you perceive things the way you perceive things, then you don't know why you believe what you believe. So
Love it.
that's just truth right
It's
there.
fact. No,
So
exactly. It's objective truth. Like, there's no
yeah,
arguing on that.
yeah. So if you take a step back and look at yourself and acknowledge like what you come from, who you are, what your advantages, disadvantages are in life, whether it's economically, like wealth, where you were born geographically, what country you were born in, what color your skin is, what your education is like. You have all of these things, and people nowadays like to call it privilege, which it definitely can be. Um,
Mm.
but it's factors that lead you to make the decisions that you make, whether you chose it or not. That is what it is, and you got to acknowledge why it is that way.
No, I really like that, and it goes to show the importance. I mean, again, I knew we vibed, and I knew, and
Oh yeah,
every time we talk, it's just like, yeah, that's why,
yeah, yeah,
because it's
yeah.
that concept of being able to take the objective, observational perspective in life, and really
Mhm.
just, it's not being cutthroat, it's not being mean, it's just being straight up and
Yep,
efficient.
yep.
And the one thing that I'm curious about, because we talked about hip hop culture and all those things with like the youth, how much do you think society would change if we taught this type of philosophy, obviously, like, digested down and boiled down, in elementary school? Like,
Oh,
would you have heard, like, do you think it would have resonated with you, as even at that young of an age, like talking about these, like, kind of like different type of concepts of just like your understanding and building your perspective of this world?
absolutely. I mean, that philosophy class that I took in high school, that was only the beginning that led me to a bunch more. But Like that was an elective that I chose to take because I wanted to. That wasn't part of the core curriculum of everything. So I feel like if you started teaching this stuff early on, same thing with anything else. Like we're teaching kids like useless crap, like literally just useless crap that they're never going to use in their lives, and it's disgusting. And that's why I've always had this disdain for the education system, is because I know that it's a scam. Like it's just straight up a scam. They're teaching you useless crap. They're going to send you to college to try and get a piece of paper for $100,000 in debt. That's going to make you $2 more an hour than your peer who didn't go to college. Okay, great job, buddy. Now you got all this debt that you're working all your life to pay off. So I fully agree that if we were to teach this stuff early on in little digestible pieces, like I said with that car crash example, right? Like that's pretty easily digestible to, someone who's 8 years old, right? Like, you
get real stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
you would just take real analogies, real concepts, like real world situations, and then analyze them through the lens of perspective, or through self-growth, or through privilege, as you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, like acknowledging the situation that you are in.
Ooh, I would almost even say, like, the easiest way you could phrase that, I think, would just be teaching compassion. It's just like, because it's teaching that perspective of, like, I mean, it ties into what you said earlier about perspective. It's like teaching that there's people that come from different backgrounds, that they come from different situations, and that impacts them as who they are as kids.
Right.
That's a fascinating perspective on the fact of, the impact of just philosophy. And the Western sciences have shown us that they've done so many studies that show, like, when kids learn philosophy at a young age, all of their other subjects go up. But I'm right there with you in terms of the educational, like, system, especially, or, like, I should specify, like, the public educational system, is that it's an indoctrination center. It teaches kids stuff that don't make sense, that they teach them in methods that frustrate them because it's not natural. Like, they don't do drop-down math anymore.
What do they do?
So, like, the way I can express it is, like, at least this is like 3 years ago when I was, like, working with schools. They'll do, like, a type of a grid. I'll be a little less.
When you're talking drop down, you mean like carry the 1, carry the 2 type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they don't do that. So, like, they'll do, like, a number here. Like, it'll be like this, y, this, y, and they do all this crazy stuff. And I literally remember trying to, like, show kids how to, like, do math, because they were, when I was helping out one of this, it was Laurelhurst Elementary. I had, like, 2 fourth graders who were doing their homework in the morning, and I was trying to help them out with it, and they were getting super frustrated. They're like, I just don't know what to do. Like, it's just really annoying. One of them started to cry, and I was like, yo, like, what's going on over here? And it was just a simple, like, I'm pretty sure it was like you're multiplying, like, a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number. And they were just mind blown. Like, they couldn't do it because their box was even longer than that one. Had the 3.
Oh my God, it's 8 columns long.
Well, and it was just one of those things where I was just like, dude, why are you guys getting so frustrated with this? And I just showed them drop down math, and they were just like they looked at, like, me like a deer in the headlights, like I was teaching them magic. Like, it was one of those things where I was just like, you guys, like, how are you learning? And I had to research it and look it up, and it's the most confusing things. And, like, the times while someone does a beautiful side by side of trying to teach, like, they're showing their teacher and, like, or teacher's class exam, trying to teach people and students how to do this, versus just doing drop down math and talking through it. And it's like a minute passes, drop down math equations complete. After, like, spending some around to kind of, like, talk to the camera and judge, and, like, not judging, but, like, critiquing this one, be like, you see what they're doing here? You see what they're doing here? Let's get back to the problem. And then, and it takes, like, 8, 10 minutes, 12 minutes for the person to do, like, the square thing, or, like, the rectangular, like, grid. And it doesn't make any sense to why they're teaching people this, other than to cause suffering and chaos. And I don't know, man. Like, you got to look this. It's like, you got to look it up on YouTube.
Yeah. I'll have to find it in my free time. Like, what's it even called?
I don't even know what I called it. I think it was like box math or something like that.
But like, oh God.
But
yeah,
dude,
it's stupid. Box math. Oh my God.
Are you seeing it? Does it pop up immediately?
Yes. What the hell is this? Okay, so 3 times 28. You're gonna take the 3 and put it on one side, and you do the 20, and then you do the 8. Okay, that makes sense. That's fine. That's how I would break it down as a problem, but in my brain, not in a box. There's no boxes going on here. So 958 times
So
46, you do the 900, what? And then you add it all up at the end?
Yes.
So it's two problems.
Exactly.
Why? Why?
And the thing that I was thinking about, like I had this I just had a revelation when I was like at that place working there, and I was just like, dude, like they're purposefully making this harder
Yes.
for kids. And it's like, and
Yes.
what happens when you have those types of mental issues? You think your self-worthlessness goes up, low self-esteem.
Right.
You
Right.
bash yourself, you get more depressed, anxious for sure. Like kid cried. It was like,
Yeah.
yo, 7:30 in the morning. Why are you crying?
Why are you crying?
You're
It's only
10.
4 times 20. Come on.
Right. Yeah. Those things where it's like, I just don't get, other than their purpose just to create more people that are just broken and
Right.
are pain and filled
Because
with
they're
trauma.
moldable. You can control them.
Well, and exactly, but it's also a point of disconnection too, because it's like parents can't teach that. I
Right.
remember a kid, his mom was a doctor, and he goes, my mom taught me drop down math, but I can't do it. I did it on my last one and I got in trouble.
Dude,
So
okay.
I started doing my field research and being like, wait, is this a thing? I thought it was just that
Yeah.
teacher. I was like, wait, is this a real thing? They all are taught that now. It's ridiculous.
Dude, that's ridiculous. I remember I used to get in trouble for not showing my work on tests because I'm a big picture kind of guy. I got the right answer. I didn't cheat. I got the right answer. Why does it matter how I got that answer? Okay. So like I remember one time I got in trouble for this, but it said it was like 9 times 5. I was like, oh, it's 45, whatever. I was good at my times tables. Now calculus, fuck calculus. That's not real math. That's fake numbers. That's rocket science math. I'm not doing that. But like it said, show your work. And so I literally drew a picture of a person and a thought bubble and 9 times 5. And I just wrote, I did it in my head. And my teacher was pissed. And I was like, I literally just did it. Like, how do you want me to break it down for you? What do you want me to show? My brain? Like, you know what I mean? So you're having people, this is why other countries are smarter than us, is because we're teaching our kids to be stupid. And so like that new method of teaching, or I don't know what in God's green earth is being taught in schools. They're probably also making them a bunch of softies too. And you can teach someone compassion without making them a big softie.
Facts.
But right, like you don't have to be a baby who's gonna cry at multiplication because you're being taught bad multiplication if you just teach everything the right way the first time. I'm just going off right now, but the education system is just ridiculous. I hate it so much.
I mean, for you to hear that and see that type of math for the first time, I think that's an important thing for people to understand of just how deep this really goes in terms of societal issues that cause long-term problems in people. Like there is a group of kids that, some of them were in my groups that I counseled, but they were what, third and fourth graders that were full blown having like almost like an AA meeting after school and sometimes during lunches for this one was for the PE physical exam, just running laps and doing some push-ups and sit-ups because they had such anxiety that they were having like breakdowns in the middle of class and like full on emotional crying, tears, some vomiting. Like, dude, it was like the culture that's getting bred nowadays is absolutely terrifying. And the only thing that I can think that can really heal it is for them to learn these concepts of, just like introspective, objective observation, critical thinking, being compassionate, having that ability to kind of question yourself, but not destroy yourself.
Right.
Subtly a drastic difference in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to question themselves. I've never really thought of it that way, where I think questioning yourself is great because then you can learn from it. But some people question themselves and then that is self-deprecating because they think, oh, I'm wrong, I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm not good enough, all this stuff. But then there's the flip side of that of, oh, I have this, I can work on this and improve on this and become a better person. So that's just interesting that you put it like that. I really like that.
Thank you. Like but it comes back to that point where, with everything going on with like the coronavirus, we just touched upon some issues with school and education right now. There's a lot of kids at this current moment in our society that are getting stunted
Right.
and absolutely taking steps back in terms of their emotional and, you know, societal behavioral development, that we're not really going to know the outcome of this stuff for like another 10 years when it fully manifests.
Right.
You know, so I think that's just the state of you. Just like, how can we give people advice that maybe have younger siblings, that maybe are parents with kids experiencing this stuff? Like, what if, you know, shout out to Mr. Geary, right? It's one of those things where it's, you know, how can you really try to be that impactful teacher and facilitator in the youth today through some of these concepts that you found that were really important for yourself?
I think you just gotta let kids know that not all hope is gone. This isn't a freaking Slipknot album right here. This is not all hope is gone. It's a great album too. But like just let them know that we're gonna make it through, you know. Stop giving kids, like from what I've heard from people that have kids, their kids have so much homework. Why are you giving them homework? They're not even going to school. They're not going to real school right now. They're going to Zoom school, okay? Like let them do whatever they want to do outside of that. Like honestly, I feel like one thing that we could be focusing on in this generation is how to socialize, because whether they're necessarily well educated or not, okay, they can't do their multiplication boxes. Okay, whatever. Little Jimmy's going to be fine without his freaking 50 plus 8 plus 9 times 40 plus 8. That's a bunch of bullshit. He's going to be fine without that, but maybe he can use this time to learn how to communicate better with people. Maybe he can use this time to work on a passion project that he has, or maybe learn to code. Everything's being done on a computer. Maybe they can learn how to code computers, and we can have a whole new generation that can rapidly advance technology, right? Like if we
like that.
They're already on the computer all day. Don't make them do these boxes on the computer. Have them do stuff on the computer that's going to lead, like if these are actually issues that you've seen where they're having horrible anxiety about having gym tests and having math tests, and they're crying and they're throwing up, like all this stuff, give them something, like let them work on something that they want to work on. If you let somebody explore what they're passionate about, some fifth grader might make a hot mixtape. You never know. Like some fifth grader might become an iconic fashion designer because they were given the free time to do that during these times. Someone might find that they really love medicine and then go on to find the cure for cancer or whatever, right? Like there's so much free time for these kids that are in school right now that we need to be encouraging them to explore what they want to explore and not enforcing any kind of curriculum at all, because that curriculum is pointless. They're not in school. They are on a digital computer. The parents are going to be doing all the schooling. And I feel like anyways, parents need to be a bigger part of the kids' lives. Like in other countries, kids go to school, like not during COVID times, but kids go to school like 3 days a week for 2 hours. Like in like Sweden or some shit, they barely go to school at all, and they're incredibly happy and incredibly productive because they're kids, and kids need to be social. I always hated school because, and I even hate this at work too. Like right now I'm fine because I'm having an animated conversation with you and I'm fine, but like sitting in a chair or sitting at a desk for 1 hour and then getting 2 minutes of moving time to your next class, or even in elementary school, you don't move classes. You're sitting in a chair all day. I'm not going to get anything done doing that. I am going to be like, let me out of here. I want to go be outside or be with my friends or play video games. Whatever you want to do it. Let the kids do it. That's fine. Whatever. Let this year just be a lost year of education. It's fine. Everybody's going to recover. Nearly 90% of what I learned in school, I don't use anyways, except my grammar and my writing, reading skills, and Espanol. Like those things, that's it. That's all I'm using that I learned from school. Just the basic skills. Teach them the basic skills, they're fine. They don't even teach home economics anymore.
Do they teach anything? Like imagine, so let's take this another step further. Is like, you know, okay, so you could build your dream curriculum to really just transform education.
Right.
How would you, like, what classes would you pick? I would say like pick 5 classes. Like what would you teach
for the modern day child?
To really create a society of like cultured, educated, knowledgeable, and powerful, really truly, this is all just creating powerful human beings. Like how could we, because, you know, in the light of, you know, making new systems, you know, I really like Buckminster Fuller. You know, for those that don't know him, he's an amazing, really just all around dude, like scientist, philosopher, writer. Like he did it all. You know, he was an engineer. He created so many different businesses and systems. Like, but one of the things that he's really prominently known for is that, you know, he actually made buckyballs. So it's like chemist. I almost completely forgot about that. It's one of his most famous things. But like, he was very famous and notable for saying, you know, like, in order to create a new system, you have to make the new one so efficient that it just makes the old one obsolete. Like, you don't even make it an option, you know? And the things that I would like to think, you know, is I don't like to just talk about, you know, the issues and things that are going on, but like, how can we really transform things? So I'm curious, like, what would be like your 5 most important classes to teach kids, like starting in elementary school, just to change the game?
So I would say, oh, this is a tough one. I would say, so one class would be like just to start easy, like a STEM class. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That would be one class where you
I like
teach
that.
them like, and you can even specialize it too, and then branch it off, say, into 4 classes eventually that the kids get to pick. So like you have a core STEM class that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, teaching the basics. And then some kid might be like, oh, I really like engineering. Okay, you take the engineering class. Some kid might like coding computers, take the coding class. Some kid might like mathematics, take math. Science, take a science class, be a rocket scientist, whatever. So you have that as like a core class in elementary school, and then it could branch off from there, right? I would say, although it is a useless college degree, it would be a good thing to teach kids communications, which would include like reading, writing, speaking,
Yeah.
you know, basic communication skills. So instead of
Presenting,
English
things like that.
and presenting, yeah, like being comfortable with doing stuff and not just texting yeet or whatever. But you could even do texting as part of the class. Like you could have like texting etiquette as part of the class, because that's the world that we're going towards, like email etiquette, texting etiquette, reading, writing, public speaking, intergroup work. Like that would all be part of the communications class, and not some college degree that's going to get you nowhere. And then I would say also like philosophy, and you could expand around the philosophy in the sense of like emotional acknowledgement or something like that, like where you like an emotional philosophy and emotional understanding class, and not like in a softy way. Like, and when I say softy, I mean like don't make them ashamed of it or like cry about it. Make them comfortable with it. Make the kids comfortable with talking about their feelings, talking about their perception, how they view the world and all that stuff, because that would really help grow them as individuals and make them stronger as a person.
And like compassionate towards others, and really being able to like listen. I think that's like one of the most important things we never get taught, is how to listen.
Right. It's very true. Like you don't know how to hear. You can hear someone, but you might not acknowledge what they're saying. So, and one important thing with listening too is just like growing from it and taking what you hear from someone and just ingesting it. Don't even be like, oh, I got to talk next. Like I gotta think of something better to say. You know, just give it some time to fester in there. So let's see. We got our STEM class, our communications, which encompasses both those encompass a lot. Emotional class.
Like
I would say.
Philosophy.
Yeah, philosophy, emotional, and like that type
all
of
that into one thing.
All that into one. All that is one class that you'd have multiple years.
It's like understanding of self, essentially.
Yeah, and then I would have like I don't know what you call it, basic world skills class. So like cooking, doing your chores, going like transportation, like all these basic things. How to balance your checkbook, or how to spend money.
How to save, how to
save, invest, all that stuff. That's like human society 101 is what you'd call it. But 101, 102, all that, right? Like all this basic stuff of living in a society, and how to build a family, how relationships work, how you could incorporate sex ed into that class too, right? Just like interacting with other people. And that's not part of the other classes. This is like yourself, making yourself a person in the society. So that, and then the fourth one would just be not even just an art class, but just a passion project class where kids just find something that they like and they get time to do whatever they want and work on that as much as they'd like, where it's a free, obviously you have physical education in there somewhere. We're not counting that as a class. You got to get gym and recess and stuff.
Ooh,
But
I
what?
like that. No, I was gonna say because like I'd almost even add like a lot of. I'd almost even say we have to expand it to 6 because it's like you have the STEM, you have the communications, you have the philosophy, you have the societal like contribution,
Societal
like
skills.
societal skills. You have the art, which I would just leave it as arts in general.
Art, just
That could just
art.
be
Yeah, just
whatever.
all art. Exactly. That's why I was
Teaching
like,
kids
well,
how to create, like or
creating. Yeah.
creation
Yeah.
101.
Ooh, but we're not getting into biblical stuff. We're getting into art stuff. But yeah, and then you would have another class that would be your physical education aspect
Yeah.
of it, which would be, say yoga, learning how to do proper breathing exercises, learning how to like take care of your body by what to eat and health, and like a bunch of different sports. Let people explore all these different sports.
Team games and like that
Team
type
games.
of like
Yeah.
actually
So
working with people and that type of
Mhm.
strategy and all that.
Yeah, because then you're building your brain, you're keeping fit, like healthy, and then you're learning how to become, because your body is a huge piece of all that too. So
Yeah.
you're taking care of your mental and physical health with all of that. And I feel like that would be a good 6. So you have your STEM class, which is like modern day skills, communications, which is basic human interaction, um, philosophy, and then your society skills class, and then art, which is just creation, and then physical education, which goes beyond just, hey, let's play dodgeball today. That's like team building, personal wellness, long-term care, about your mental wellness too would be a part of that class as well, like taking care of your mind, like physical, not gym, talking physical education.
Well, and that's the biggest thing about PE, which is such a joke. And this isn't an offense to PE teachers, because I do know some that actually do get pretty deep and try to do their best, but like they're limited to the system. And I think that's the crazy thing is like, we grow up and we don't actually learn, like a lot of my work in terms of like FSP stuff is teaching people how to really people, is teaching them like their ins and outs of their bodies, like food is fuel, like all these things of how you have a cause and effect. It's like, oh, you have an ailment, you're catering to one side, well, that's going to create an effect for the other side. You got a knee injury on that left leg, it's going to kind of create some ish on the right if you're kind of catering to it all the time. Like just the systems of levers and pulleys, like there's so many basic things that for me, like that, like what you just said. And then we could almost say like the 7th period is just like lunch and then recess and just like decompression time. You know what I mean?
Relaxation time.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Food.
Like you can go eat, you can go hang out on the playground, you can do your thing. But like I think just right there, because that should never end. Like that should be like one of the basic categories of how it like a tree, it just continues to branch out as you get older. Because I think that's one thing that's really important too. Just it's funny with that 7th one. I love how it expanded from 5 to 7.
We had to squeeze them in.
Yeah, but I mean, because it's just important to show people that it's like, I always used to watch a lot of I still watch a lot of anime, but it's just like in terms of like in martial arts and all this stuff, it's just like one of the biggest concepts is if you're going to work hard and you're going to, it's important to also play hard and enjoy life.
Right.
But it's also important to rest. And we never really teach that, and really teaching people how to like just a whole time spent just like, hey, this is you just relaxing. Do whatever relaxes you. People don't give themselves that aspect of self-love and really just balancing out the human existence. Dude, no, I love that. I think right there, what you just talked about, that is how we reform education to actually to not only heal to heal generations, but to create people that are like, could you imagine coming out of that, like in high school, going through that type of process and just like deep dives? Because the way I like to see it is like, maybe not even just expanding into a ton of different things, but just keeping those same 7 core groups of classes and just more and more complicated each level you go up. So it's like kids are getting really well-rounded in the, in every aspect of what they're getting taught. So like when they're done in high school, it's like you have fully functioning people who could really do whatever they want when they're given this choice of, hey, figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life and you're going to invest all this money in it.
Yeah. And you can even teach them, like you could teach them jobs. If you wanted to do that, you could have the option, say once they've gotten through middle school, they got the basics down, and then in high school you would advance it more.
Yeah, specializations type of thing.
Yeah, and then say, someone who's 13 is like, actually, I really, learned a lot about plumbing or welding or being an electrician. I want to do that. Okay, cool. You're going to go to the technical school and learn those skills to apply to it. You're going to have a different curriculum. You're going to learn those skills because we know that you're passionate about it, and we're going to specialize you to that, whereas these other kids are going to keep going through their education. And at any time, you can opt out of the high school building blocks and say, oh, actually, I heard that my friend Timmy Tim is having fun over at plumber school. I want to go try that out too. Okay, sure, go check it out, see what it's like. Like, give kids the option. And I mean, I know they had, like, for me, they had what was called Snow Isle technical programs and whatnot, and it was super cool. They also had Running Start, but why not just implement that into the regular school system? Don't make it something that you have to sign up for and like go off campus to do, especially if you're the oldest and you don't know about that. Like me, I'm the oldest, so I didn't know about any of this stuff until it was too late. And so once that time came, I was like, wait, I could have been getting free college or free technical skills and not have had to pay for it and be essentially 2 years ahead of everybody else if I did that.
Wow, yeah.
So that, I think, needs to just be implemented into part of the regular curriculum.
Oof, that's a game changer. It's so funny throughout all this. I think one of the things that's really important to highlight, and it's something that we can't really teach, but it's more so shown and expressed, but it's the importance of humor and being able to laugh, not only laugh at, the awesomeness of life, but just being able to like kind of laugh at yourself and be lighthearted. How would you say that's really impacted you as a person? Because I think that's one of the things that I just get from you as a being is that, it's like you're incredibly like humorous and just like lighthearted in a lot of different ways, but it's not to a point where it's like blasé, I don't give a shit about life. It's that point where it's just like you truly are having fun.
Right.
Like how would you help people kind of awaken to that inner self, like that? Because the way I say this is that I relate with you in that sense, because I like to see it as like it's my inner child just expressing itself.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can't lose that inner youth in you, and I feel like the expressions of "you're only as old as you feel" and "age is only a number" are very real in that sense. Like if you keep your childish spirit forever, like I helped this one guy at work the other day. He was like 75, and he's like, oh yeah, dude, like blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, man. Like he's like just talking to me so casually, like he had a youthful spirit about him, and I was like, okay, cool. Like this guy has clearly held on to that. Like he's using his hippie terms from back when he was a fucking hippie back in the day. Now with me, and I've often said throughout my life that if it wasn't for humor, I would be dead. I would just off myself out of this world, because if you can't enjoy life, there's no point in living. That's the way I see it. If your life is not being enjoyed, and that's not to say kill yourself. I do not endorse suicide. That's a very deep subject. Don't do that. Don't do that. But you got to be okay with enjoying life. Life doesn't have to be miserable. Like bad things happen in life. Yes. Bad things are going to happen to you. Yes. But you can always find the humor in every situation, no matter how fucked up it is. Like it could be the most tragic thing in the world, but you can find something funny about it, or something ironic, or something that you can laugh at, kind of, and I feel like that's the human condition, is just like all humor comes from pain. Honestly, I feel like a lot of humor, that I would say all of it, comes from pain, and not necessarily like deep pain, but like slapstick comedy, that's people getting hurt, falling down funny, or like like certain comedy is either something tragic happening or the lack of something tragic happening, and we find that funny. It's a subversion of our expectations, and so when something does or doesn't happen the way that we think it's going to happen, we find that humorous. And that's why like SNL, for example, SNL sucks now because it's so predictable and ass. It's just straight ass. So
it's too
like
tamed and PC.
It's tamed, exactly. So like some of the best humor comes when it's just absolutely fucked up. Like certain things like that are just hilarious, and that's what's pissing me off about the new generation and whatnot, is everybody's so PC, and you can't even make it. And the thing is, with humor, you can learn from it and educate people through humor, because like you know, if people are afraid to talk about, say, I don't even know, say dropping the bomb on Hiroshima, or talking about slaves in America, or talking about the Holocaust, literally anything like that, those are all very heavy issues that really happened in human history, okay? And there's nothing we can do to change that. But the best way to educate ourselves about it is to think of clever ways to talk about it, right? And so if you can use humor to your advantage to change people's perspective on those issues, then I think that that's something that you should do. And some people would heavily disagree and say, "Oh, that's fucked up. That's, you know, that's appropriation. You're messing all this up. Like, you're fucking bigoted." No, no, you're not. You're just trying to, instead of making it all humdrum and sad, talking about the Trail of Tears, like, teach it in a way that at least has something to it. That it's not funny, but like, if you make, you know what I mean? Like,
No, dude,
like,
I get it.
like there are all these things that happened in the past that are so bad that you don't have to necessarily make it bad to talk about.
Yeah. Well, it's making things digestible in a fashion that isn't incredibly painful. I mean, it's not
Exactly.
like, I mean, some of the greatest jokes I've ever heard are ones that are just like, oh, that's terrible. Like, but it's a point of,
Exactly.
I think that's one of the reasons why, like, you think about like why Chappelle's show was such a hit when it first came out, and
Hmm.
why his stand-ups and other kind of like-minded comedians do so well is because they're some of the most brutal in terms of their dissections and kind of like I guess you'd say almost like the philosophical breakdown of just like society and just like how
Right.
truly messed up some of this stuff is, and then just using comparisons to be like, could we ever pull this off in a regular setting? Like, and
Right.
just see how outlandish it is. But that's what I find like with yourself that bothers me is that this world has gotten so PC that we actually haven't been able to really look at ourselves and enjoy life. We have to be we're it's
Mhm.
just a big victim whine party, like victimhood
Yeah.
whininess and just really just a bratty selfish behavior because it's like, listen, like, you're offended at something you've never once experienced.
Yes.
This is your intro just to get a taste of how truly fucked up it is.
Yeah.
Laugh because everyone else that's experienced it is laughing their ass off. Like,
Right. Right. And that, like, that's the thing. People love to be offended and act like they're the hero. And if I ever try and just have a civil conversation with someone about something that's real, like if you try and have a conversation with someone about something that is real and they get upset and they leave the conversation, they're not willing to expand their mind. That's there. I've said a lot that
mm,
there's a lot of fake woke. I don't even know. I might have even said that last time when we were doing the political podcast. Um, but there's like so much fake wokeness going on of people thinking that they're helping, but in reality they are hindering the advancement and learning of the human condition.
oof,
So like
facts.
there was, like, for example, let's take the Washington Redskins for example, which is now the Washington football team. So white people are very offended at the fact that it was called the Washington Redskins. And honestly, I get it. I don't know. That sounds like a slang term to me. But um, my stepbrother was telling me this story. He has a classmate at college, or I think a frat mate, frat bro, I don't know, who's Native American. And they were talking about it, and he was saying that his friend who's Native American was like, actually, I don't really like that they changed the name. It was pretty cool that they had something that was a nod to us, like acknowledging that, we exist, we are people. And so that really put in perspective that, like,
Mm.
okay, well, this group that caused the oppression is now saying it's offensive historically. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, I got you.
I
I
didn't
got
do
you.
that, right? But like historically, the white Americans led the Native Americans to their slaughter, right? And then that's fucked up. That's not okay. And then we got the Washington Redskins football team, and everybody gets offended by it because it's like, oh, historically that's not okay. No, no way, that's bad, that's offensive. But then when you get the perspective of someone who's a modern day Native American talking about that, and they say, oh yeah, well, I actually enjoyed that was something that
Yeah.
acknowledged our heritage, it really puts it into perspective of like, okay, well, who has the right to be offended? I don't think you have the right to be offended at, I mean, being offended is a choice, for one. Being offended is
Facts,
a choice.
facts. Yeah.
But I feel like you have no right or need to be offended at something that you are not any part of. Like, okay, look, if it's racism, if you're racist, fuck you. Like literally, you can just fuck off. If you're racist, fuck off. Anybody, because that's just not okay. But like,
Yeah.
if you take something from history and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is my fault. I gotta feel bad. I'm guilty for this. Well, no, you're not. You weren't even alive, for one. And two, you don't even hold those values to be true. So like, no, that's not the case. And I mean, I say a lot of this, and of course there's exceptions to everything. Everything is
Yeah.
subjective, right? But a majority of the time, you gotta just learn from the past and not try and change the past. Because you know what the mother freaking Nazis did when they first took over? They burned all the books and they burned the history. And that's what you're doing right now is you're literally censoring history. And when you censor history, nobody knows it happened, and then it happens again. That's a no
Exactly.
cap there.
No, I
That's
mean
what happened.
that's something that's going on. I mean, we're seeing it right now, the active role of censorship and how things are getting painted, and even just textbooks that are coming out nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny that you bring up the Redskins because North Dakota State University or North Dakota University, they used to be the Fighting Sioux,
Uh-huh.
and no Sioux complained. It was just a bunch of white people to the point where like they even went through all this like crazy stuff where my buddy went there for aviation school and he was telling me he's just like, oh man, like the hockey, like that was a huge thing. Obviously, it's North Dakota, so they're huge with hockey. And it was one of those things where the Fighting Sioux, they would do like it was like a memorial video of just like the culture of like the Fighting Sioux and just like really paying homage. And it was all signed off by the chiefs, the tribe itself.
Right.
And they were like, they helped them make it, like all this stuff that was like very respectful towards the culture and the community. And then
Mhm.
it's just a bunch of like Karens and Carls or Karens and Kens or whatever it is that are just
I
like,
forget what
oh,
the guys are
they're like,
called.
I'm offended.
Yeah.
And then they took it off. They scrubbed it, and it was just like, okay, so now you're telling me that like the school that's built on their land no longer gets the representation because of some pissed off people that have nothing to do with any of this.
Exactly.
Like it's just
It,
people need to
like if
grow
you're
up.
not getting fucking like backlash from the community that people are saying it's offending, why is it even a problem? Like what, why? Nobody from this community that you say it is offending are offended. So what gives you the right to say that it is? Because you, as someone who's, I don't know, learned about this piece of history, feel somehow guilty because of it? Like, come on, what are you doing?
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Oh man. Well, I think that's just one of the things that I'm very, it's always nice having these types of conversations because it's always a breath of fresh air for like the mainstream stuff that goes on in this world where, it's people that actually are challenging the mainstream that, have gone through their own trial by fire and who are, creating work that really is just bringing people more joy and happiness. And, I couldn't think of anyone better to have on Creative Shadow than Mr. Paper Chase Official.
Oh,
Because in
it's
truth,
hard.
one of the real ones that is just as much as lighthearted as you are, you're a person that has your perspective based on your facts and your research, and
Oh, yeah.
you're eloquent when you express these things. And again, like I really wish people take away from this conversation that it's so important to be your most genuine self, regardless of what's going on around you.
Yep.
And life is going to reward you. The people that realize it are going to gravitate towards you, and you're just going to continue crushing it at life. And like I'm super excited for those projects to keep coming out.
Oh,
Once
just you wait.
and then once this corona locks down, we're all going to have to celebrate and do something because it's just I really do feel like this is a chance to, obviously they say like it's a new normal. It's like, yeah, and it should be. We should be growing from this. We should be changing
Right.
society from this. And it's good to see people that are taking this opportunity to really push themselves and grow on deeper levels. And and just for your honesty in that sense of just being able to address your own ruts and what you can do to kind of
Mhm.
combat that. And again, just heal and level up and transform this world. I'm
Yeah.
stoked.
Yeah. I think a really important thing that, like, because even though I feel like I am in that rut, what I'm learning is if I ever am at this point again, how to handle it. Going forward, you
True.
gotta, right? So like say I'm in my 40s or whatever, and God forbid I'm married and divorced and have kids, and my wife leaves me with the kids and I lose my job and I'm all sad. I can be like, okay, well, 2020. So I got this, right? So I feel like that's something that's a good lesson, at least that can come out of this year, is even if you don't get anything productive on the surface, it's what's on the inside that's going on in here that we get done during this time that's really going to help us grow and move forward.
Oh, dude, facts. I love it. I love
I feel
it.
like that's the mic drop right there. That's
Oh,
what
dude,
we got
yeah.
to focus on.
That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 3:33 p.m. Pacific Daily Time as creative minds get together and chat about who knows what. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. WeAreHistorically.com, Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. Learn to play jazz piano with my simplified online course, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.